Hello, guys. Welcome to my channel. This is Unbound Chapters, and the name is Elsie. To all my beautiful viewers all over the world, I just want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or even good night, wherever you guys happen to be. Once again, welcome. If you haven't already subscribed, please click the subscription button below and the notification bell that when I post, you will receive the notification and know that I've uploaded a video so you can be part of this wonderful community. So for those of you who might ask, what is Unbound Chapters and why the name Unbound Chapters? So Unbound Chapters was created for women who are rebuilding their lives from all forms of adversities in life, be it trauma, domestic violence, separation, breakups, divorce. It could be the death of a loved one. It could be being in trouble with the law, incarcerated, and being out of that system, just trying to find your feet again. It could be other forms of, abuse that it's not obvious to the society to see. It could be psychological or emotional abuse. It could be other things that you might not be comfortable to put a name on or discuss with even a therapist or a friend or a family member. Therefore, you're just looking for an online community who are anonymous and you just want to remain anonymous. And the other people online, you obviously don't know them, so they are sort of anonymous people. And you're looking for a judgment-free space to discuss whatever you've been through to help with your journey of healing. This is the platform for you, okay? So over here, we do not judge. So if this is your first time here, I just want to say thank you and please stay tuned. Don't leave. You can watch my other videos on my platform. I do have a TikTok page as well. It's Unbound Chapters. I also have an Instagram. And I do have another TikTok platform, which is called Behind the Mask. You're going to see this lady with a mask on. She's all dressed in black. So that actually talks about experiences. It's very raw, so it can be a little bit daunting and traumatic. So please beware. There's a disclaimer on the page. And so this is Unbound Chapters. So along the line, behind the mask, I'm gonna be discussing. I'm gonna be inviting guests to share their real life experiences, and it will all be like anonymously shared. So that's why behind the mask, hence the name. So welcome aboard, and like I said, my name is Elsie, and today we're gonna be talking about a very important topic, which is assertive communication. Okay, so there are other topics that I've made a video on. So this channel is actually new, so there isn't a lot of videos on here, but as I keep posting, you're gonna find a lot of videos. So if there's any pressing topic that you have in mind that you want us to discuss, please feel free to leave it in the comment section, or and just write what sort of topic you would like me to discuss, and we'll take it from there. I do occasionally have like live sessions on TikTok where my viewers, they join in, they even request to share their experiences. So if you are not a follower of my TikTok, please go follow. It's Unbound Chapters as well. It's the same name, Unbound Chapters on TikTok. You will find me, and and we are all here to support each other in this journey called life. So today, like I said, we're gonna be talking about assertive communication. So I'm gonna go straight into it. So often, we realize in life's journey, one of the most difficult thing to actually get you through healing, or for whatever experiences you had not to repeat itself, is for you to be assertive in your communication instead of being a passive aggressive communicator. I always say is the approach. The way you communicate is very important. It will either make people hear what you have to say and actually take it to heart and listen, or people are just gonna brush your message aside and just not take you serious. So assertive communication is very crucial in every aspect of your life, be it family relationships, relationship with your colleagues at work, even with your neighbors, just in the community in general, because at the end of the day, you do deal with humans every single day. Even when you're dealing with animals and you're giving them instructions, I mean, you have to be assertive in whatever you say before they will trust you. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, like I said, don't leave, stay, and and we'll sail through this. So, when we talk about assertive communication, what does it mean? What is assertive communication? What does assertive communication how does it stand out to you? Someone will say, oh, being direct in whatever you say. It's not always about just being direct and blunt. That's not what assertive communication is. I will say assertive communication is communicating your intentions in a very respectful way that the message will be received with care, and whatever goal or outcome of the message that you want will be accomplished. So that is what I will define as assertive communication. For example, you're telling a little child to go have a seat instead of standing on you. If you just say sit down in a very harsh tone, that is not being assertive. Even though it's a child, you haven't communicated with respect. You haven't made your intentions known. Therefore, the child might not see you as assertive. They will rather see you as an aggressive communicator, someone who is passive aggressive, and they might be stubborn and still stand there and not move an inch. And they can even respond back to you. If I don't move, what are you going to do? Just to see your reaction. However, if you change that form of communication to say, you explain to the child very briefly, oh, sweetheart, if you stand too long, your legs are gonna be sore. So, there's a chair over there. If you can please go sit on so it doesn't hurt your leg. In a very calm tone, the child will know that, okay, standing wherever they are for long is gonna hurt their leg, and they are the ones who are gonna suffer the pain. Therefore, you are not being passive aggressor. You are you're not being a passive aggressive communicator. You have good intentions for whatever you're communicating, so you're being assertive in your communication, and they will follow through with your instructions. Okay. So today, for the topic today, assertive communication, I seriously want to focus on the Dear Man technique, because that actually helps with healing. So when I talk about Dear Man, it sounds as it is spelled. So it's DEAR, there's a space, MAN, technique. Okay, so Dear Man technique actually falls under dialectical behavioral therapy, which is DBT. All right, we'll keep it very simple because there are some people here who don't even know what that is. So I just will go straight into it. I'm not gonna explain what DBT is. It will confuse a lot of people. So just to make it brief, so DBT is a form of psychological intervention technique. It's a form of therapy that therapists use. So the Dear Man technique. Okay, let me repeat again. Dear Man communication technique. It actually helps with those who are dealing with their healing. They want to heal and they want to improve their lives. They are the types of categories or types of cohorts that are encouraged to use the Dear Man technique. I mean, anyone can incorporate Dear Man technique into their communication style because it will help them. But when it comes to that cohort of individuals, women who are trying to heal. If I say women, this platform was designed bearing women in mind. So I'll be saying woman along the line. It doesn't mean if you're a man, you cannot use it. You can also use it, okay? So, what is Dear Man? What is Dear Man communication style or Dear Man technique? Which, like I said, falls under DBT, which is a psychological intervention. So the Dear Man, okay, Dear Man, that's actually the acronym, and I'll go through what the acronym means. But for now, Dear Man is a flagship communication technique, okay, and it's from DBT, and it's actually designed to help ask for what you want to say. All right, or so it will actually help you to say exactly what you're looking for, or it will help you to say no if you feel very bad to answer the question no, in a way that will maintain your relationships and also your self-respect. So that is Dear Man technique. So I will say, so this intervention, that is the Dear Man, is a targeted approach which aims to empower every lady with a structured communication toolkit, okay, to establish firm, healthy boundaries and navigate the ongoing conflict with whoever you have in conflict with. All right. So if you haven't listened to my YouTube video on boundaries, it's on this channel. Please go and listen to it. So for all my women out there, all my ladies, if you're able to master this Dear Man approach, the communication approach of Dear Man, you can protect your emotional well-being and assert your needs more effectively among your current systemic stresses. So this is very crucial. Let me break that down to a very simple explanation so everyone can understand. So if you are able to understand how this Dear Man technique works, okay, and you keep practicing, that is incorporating it into your communication style. So you keep practicing it every time you're going to be talking, you're trying to use the Dear Man approach, the Dear Man strategy, you will come to a realization that your boundaries will become stronger and healthier. It will be very easy for you to navigate different forms of interpersonal conflict. So if I say conflict, it could be verbal altercations like arguments with people. You'll be able to navigate it in a very healthy way, that there wouldn't even be conflict because it'll be very easy for you to resolve. Okay, your well-being will be improved, your mental health will be improved. So like I said, communication is crucial, it's very important. You either make or break a relationship, a friendship, based on how you communicate. Okay, so when I say Dear Man, like I spelled DEAR, there's a space and man. What does that acronym actually stands for? So that's what I'm gonna go through right now. If you don't have a pen and paper and you wanna write it down, feel free, because this is very important for your healing. Someone might question, oh, communication is important for my healing. Absolutely, communication is very important for your healing. Because even if you go see a therapist, you have to be able to be assertive in your communication, in the way you ask questions, in your approach, in the way you go about things. When something is said to you, how you take it on board is all part of your communication. Okay, if you have to implement a technique that you've learned from therapy, you still have to be able to know how to implement the approach, and most often it's linked to verbal communication. So this is very important. So like I said, I will go through the acronyms of Dear Man for us to understand what they mean. So with the D, so the D is actually for you to describing the event or whatever you're going through. So you sticking to the fact, okay? You sticking to the exact fact. You are not going outside of the issue. You're not going to be running in circles or beating about the bush. All right. So it's simply like you had an agreement to study, but you spend the time talking about other people's problems. Do you understand? So that's just an example. You and your friend or colleague or whatever, you had an issue to, or you had a task at work to deal with. Instead of sticking to the facts, you are beating about the bush and unfortunately talking about other issues that are not related to what you're supposed to do. So the D stands for describe, and describe is simply sticking to the facts of the problem, of the issue at hand. Now let's look at the E. What does the E mean? The E in DMR stands for express. Okay, express. So expressing your feelings. So just basically using I statements to share your feelings. All right, so I'll give an example. I feel frustrated and distracted when our focus shifts away from the coursework. So you have a colleague that you have a group assignment. You guys are supposed to do a group assignment, and you realize whenever you guys meet, the friend or the colleague doesn't take the work seriously, and he brings other topics to the table. Let's say he's talking about a Netflix series she saw or whatever, and for you to talk about that issue at hand using a DMAN technique without causing conflict in the in the dynamic or the relationship you have with this colleague. When you're using the DMAN technique and the word E express, you're using I statements. That's why I gave that example. I feel frustrated and distracted when our focus shifts away from the coursework. So you are not pointing your fingers or doing blame games and saying, when you come and you're always talking about your Netflix series and you this and you that, you are not using accusatory language by shifting blame and just being judgmental and not being empathetic. So DMAN approach is actually a very good approach to use to minimize conflict because there's a lot of compassion and empathy. Again, the E stands for express, using I statement always, okay? So now let's move on to the A. What does the A stand for in DA? So the A is basically for you to assert. Assert as in ASSERT. Okay, assert. So assert, you clearly ask for what you want or say no. All right, that is assert. That's where the word assertive comes from. All right, so the A in DMAN is assert, not asset, assert with an R, ASSERT. All right, so if you're gonna ask for what you want or you say no, let me give an example. I need us to stay on the topic for the next hour. So again, you are using I statement instead of again being judgmental or telling your colleague, friend, whoever you're doing your assignment with. This topic does not, or this form of communication does not only relate to assignments. I'm just using an example here. Instead of telling them you really have to learn to stay on the topic, that is very a passive aggressive way of communicating. You are not being assertive. So for you saying, I need us, okay? You are being inclusive here. You're including the other individual, but you are saying, I need us to stay on the topic for the next hour, okay? And it's not a command. It's just being assertive. So it's necessarily not a command, but you are being firm and you are being very directive of what needs to happen, but in a very respectful, empathetic, and calm manner. That is why assert is important. Okay, now let's look at the word R. That's the last letter for the dear. R. R, okay, or R, some people will say. So that R, it's reinforce, okay? Reinforce is so important. So you've already described the issue, you've expressed your feelings, you've been assertive, you've assert, and sometimes you do all that and they still don't carry through with the directives you've provided. Therefore, what are you going to do to help them carry out with the directives you provided? You're going to reinforce. So, what is the reinforce? The R stands for reinforce. You explain the benefit to the other person. Okay? You explain the benefit to the other person. That is reinforcing. Because sometimes it's just not clear, your directives are not clear, or they just don't know why you're asking whatever you're asking. If you use this approach, they wouldn't find you bossy, but they still don't understand. So you're reinforcing, okay? It feels like you are reiterating on what you've already said, and in a very assertive way, okay? So let me give an example of that, since I'm using doing an assignment with a colleague. That's the form of examples that I've used throughout. I'll give an example in relation to the same topic. So being reinforcing in these circumstances, the example that I will say is, if we finish this assignment earlier, we'll both be less stressed about the exams. Do you see? If so, again, you are being inclusive, you are being respectful, you are being compassionate, and you've even provided why it is important for you guys to stay on track and finish the assignment on time. So the delivery of how you've used the dear, do you see how crucial it is? Can you imagine if you are using this form of technique, you have conflict with other people? You wouldn't, because you are not being rude, you are just being assertive, you are being respectful, you're communicating calmly, even though you are firm and directive. So now I want to move on to man, because I said dear man, okay? So I want to move on to man for you to understand the acronym MAN of what they stand for. So it's not necessarily a man as in a masculine figure. That's not what it is. It's so the M is basically mindful. Okay? The M as in man, it's an acronym that stands for mindful. So what is the mindfulness in communicating assertively? So it's for you to stay focused on your goal, your intention of the communication. You stay very focused. If the other person tries to divert or attack the communication at hand, you ignore the bait that they're trying to use, and you repeat and you request in a very mindful way. So you're very intentional about what you're asking. All right. So let's say you're asking your friend about a book that's gonna help you guys to finish the assignment, and they are trying to, argue or attack or use a bait. Don't focus your attention on that. Still be mindful of what you're communicating, staying focused on the goal. The goal is for you guys to get the assignment through. If they're trying to attack, don't take things personal. Just stay focused and redirect them back to the topic. So that is being mindful to help you stay focused on the goal, okay? Now we're going to move on to the A. All right, in man. So we're talking about the dear man communication technique. So the A in man is appear confident. That's what it is, appear confident. All right. So you always gonna use a very steady tone. You maintain appropriate eye contact without staring into the person's eye. All right. Sometimes some form of stare can be very disrespectful, like you communicating with your eyes in a disrespectful way. That's not what it means. You're gonna appear confident, and but without staring into the eye. So the way you look into someone's eyes without necessarily them feeling you staring into is to look like at their eyebrows. So you're keeping that eye contact, you're maintaining eye contact because it's crucial in communication. However, you are not looking directly into the pupils. You're just looking at the eyebrows, okay? So above them, And by then, by that way, it still shows that you're maintaining eye contact and you appearing confident. When you want to maintain effective assertive communication, please do not whisper or look on the floor when you're talking. Once you start to look on the floor, or you start to you fidget, or you look around, or you're wandering or going there, it tells a lot about your communication technique. And mostly people either misjudge what you're trying to communicate, or they don't even take you seriously. So the A is appearing confident. Okay, that's what it means. Now let me move on to the last one. N. Okay, N. So even though you're communicating, you're being respectful, you're providing directive, you're focusing on the goal, you want everything to be accomplished in a very timely manner, you still have to remember to be able to negotiate. So the N is negotiate. Okay, it's negotiate. It's pretty much self-explanatory, but I will still dig into it for those who need a bit more context when I talk about negotiate. So negotiate is be willing to give to get. All right, that's basically what it is. So if they can't do exactly what you ask, find a middle ground and still meet your needs. So let's say you're talking about this assignment, you want things to get done, you've communicated it to them, yada yada yada, they're still finding excuses. Let's say it's a genuine excuse. It could be that they've had some personal or medical emergency that they are not able to come together with you at the time that you guys agreed on to get the assignment done. I'm just using assignment as an example, because there are so many examples. All right, but I just want to use this as the ongoing example. So you can't just say that, oh my goodness, we agreed to meet at 11 o'clock a.m. on Monday at the library and you didn't show up. No, don't do that. You're still human. That's why being empathetic is very important and compassionate. You still negotiate. You can renegotiate the time. You can renegotiate, okay, if you have this medical emergency going on with your dog or your cat, they're very sick and they have to be at the vet, and you aren't going to be able to meet me at the library. So what about we change the time to, let's say, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we can even do it through video calls, and we can find time to meet once your portion is done and my portion. So there should always be a middle ground for you to negotiate things with people. And that is giving people grace is very important. So that is the DMN technique, which, like I said, it actually falls under dialectical behavioral therapy, which is a psychological intervention that is used to, it's a psychological intervention that is used mainly for people who are on the healing journey. So when you go see a therapist and you tell them whatever you're going through, they don't just give you strategies to use. They actually give you strategies based on what you're going through. So if you're going through this and they just tell you to be mindful, they just say, oh, just use mindfulness, you're gonna be good. Mindfulness might not work for you. If they say you see CBT or use schema, it might not work for you. So whatever you're going through is specifically designed. It's just like you having a headache and they give you medication that heals your leg pain. It's not gonna take your headache away. So the form of intervention that is mainly used for effective communication, all right, when you're healing, is the DMN technique. So yeah, I will keep this video short and sweet so you guys can have time and view it again in case you didn't understand anything. Or if you have any questions, please check it in the comment section. I'm happy to answer your questions. Or if you have any suggestions, check it in there. Or if you've even used the DMN technique before and you found it very helpful and it's worked for you, please put it in the comment section so other people can see what forms, because like I explained the whole acronyms, maybe something stands out for you. You know, for me, I find the reinforcing very important, because sometimes people don't even understand what you're telling them. Maybe it's the technique or approach or the way you communicated it. So reinforcing whatever you said, it's very crucial to, in my opinion, because sometimes it's not like people don't want to follow through with the directives you're giving to them, even though you have been assertive in your communication. It's just the delivery wasn't the best. So when you reinforce it, then some people say, oh, really? I didn't even know that's what you wanted me to do, or that's what it meant, you know? So, yeah, I find that very important. And of course, being mindful. All the acronyms are very important. So, is this stood out for you? Please, again, share the video, let someone else benefit. And I'll encourage all of you to incorporate the Diamond technique, whether you're healing or whether you just want to have an effective form of communicating with people. Okay, incorporate it into your everyday lifestyle to reduce conflict, so it can help with your well-being and mental health. I love you all, guys. Stay sweet. All right, be kind to one another. If you feel you're struggling, speak to a friend, speak to someone, and I'll see you guys again shortly. Ciao. Bye.